Thanks, Zach. Like he said earlier in the Dome, Moravia in the 8-man championship against Frankfort-Schuyler. The Blue Devils went down 24 before Thomas Palmer found Riley Jones, who goes up and gets it to put numbers on the board. And then in the third quarter, the Maroon Knights were up by 42. Jaron Francis touchdown to help cut into that deficit. And then a few minutes later, Palmer found Jones yet again to make it 54-20 in the fourth. Frankfort-Schuyler was up by 50. This Palmer to Jones play would be the last score of the Blue Devils season. Moravia loses 70-28.